Hello, hello, hello. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the Marcus Allen Frishman live stream show with Marcus Allen Frishman. My name is Luxy. How are you?
Well, I'm Marcus Allen Frishman, and you're not. I see you're a cat today.
Yes, yes. I could change to a lady if you would like.
No, I love cats.
Oh, yeah.
I have only had one cat in my life named Senator, and she lived 18 years in perfect health until the final days, really a couple of weeks, where I put her on life support, and that didn't work. So I had to have my ex-girlfriend come and put her down while I was traveling the world. It was quite a terrible day, but the cat was fabulous.
18 years is a long life, right, for a cat?
Long life in two different homes of mine. Got her as a little tiny cat. Never thought I would own a cat, but a coworker said, "Marcus, you're a cat man." And I said, "No, I'm a dog man." And I have a dog that may not like this cat, but it worked out beautifully.
You know what's interesting about that? I was always a dog man myself. I was never into cats. I always thought, hey, if I ever have a pet, I'll have a dog. And the cat that I do have a cat. It was a cat that was abandoned on in front of my friend's restaurant, and it was a little kitten about 2-3 weeks old. And I said, hey, I'll take that cat. And yeah.
Something very special about cats. My cat, because he was around my dog since almost birth, he acted like a dog. He had many dog care. He would come when you'd call him. That's a dog characteristic, you know.
Yes.
There were so many traits that mimicked my dog. But I've always had one dog. I think I'm up to 5 dogs. I'm not old enough to have 6. One at a time with some overlap of a cat.
It's funny you say about the dog traits, because my cat also has a lot of dog traits. If I call my cat, it will come to me. It likes to bring its toys to me for me to throw the toys so I can play fetch and catch and stuff like that. I even walk my cat on a leash.
I did that.
It growls like a dog if there's someone walks past the window, or if there's someone coming to the land.
Yeah.
You go.
And you know, I brought a strange dog into the house once, and that my dog and the stray dog wasn't a stray dog, someone else's dog, but it was the first time that my cat ever encountered another dog in my house. For some reason, I realized that, and he was so defensive. He went after that dog like he was a wild animal, and we had to separate because he was defending. He just didn't want that dog anywhere near my dog, which was quite interesting. He died of kidney failure, sudden kidney failure. He never had a medical. I regularly got him checked up, blood tests. Never had a medical condition until the end.
Very good. Very good. On the previous episode of Archie, I heard briefly. I haven't watched the whole episode there. I'm going to watch the full episode. I heard you briefly talking about being classy, and I've seen your persona. It's very classy, gentlemanly. Your voice is really classy. The way you uphold yourself is very classy. Myself, I was taught to be classy. My grandmother, that has just recently passed away, she taught me how to be classy, how to act in public, how to talk properly, all of these things. And I think every man or every boy, as he grows up to become a man, needs to learn how to act properly and how to be a classy gentleman, how to be a gentleman. Sure. And I think that's missing in today's society.
It's totally missing. I have my original copy downstairs of Charlotte Ford's Book of Etiquette. I think it's the best one. And it's called Charlotte Ford's. Maybe I should bring it up. It's on my coffee table. But it's in great condition. I've had it since college. It was gifted to me. Now, I'm not saying people should follow the book of etiquette. When you read it, you'll see how outdated it is, how non-applicable. But I'll tell you what it makes you do in today's age. It makes you think, is this the proper way to be, act, interact? Now, I can be as rude as anyone else. You know, every now and then you have to be rude, you know, in response to something. But rudeness has overtaken our society. We are now rude in common interactions. I remember during the COVID pandemic going out and watching people and seeing how they're dealing with others. And it was just, at least in Los Angeles, in my very large city, it was a terrible sight to see everyone angry at each other. You know, my mother said to me, and she was great influence on me with concepts, simple concepts. She said, you know, Marcus, be demanding. Try to get what you need and what you want from strangers, from people you know. Expect things. Fill in the blank with a lot of other adjectives. But in the end, if you don't get what you want from your close-knit tie friendships or strangers, never get angry. Be disappointed. It's okay to be disappointed, but in your head, figure out the difference and respond that way. And so that's what I do. I get disappointed, you know, because I don't get what I want.
Is there always a want from somebody that you have interactions with? Is it always, what can you do for me, rather than
it's my nature. It's sadly, you know, I have certain negative components in my personality, and I have tried to adjust the ones over the years that I believe are absolutely offensive, and I've improved them. But there are a few that are negative that I like, and one is demanding things from people and expecting things from people, strangers and otherwise. Now, that sounds fairly outrageous, and it is, but the key, it is outrageous. It really, I've said that 3 times, but the reason it's okay to be outrageous is because of my reaction to the failure to get what I want. First of all, you make a demand with a smile. You don't do it in an angry way. If you don't get this thing you need, you move on. You can be disappointed. The problem is most people that are demanding get angry.
Yes.
They may demand less than I do. I believe that, to be general about this concept. But I can't think, you know, I'll put it this way. There was a friend of mine telling me how much he hated this person the other night at dinner.
Yes.
And I said, and it's someone he doesn't even know. It's just a person. It's a figure. It's a public figure. And I said to my friend Jim, you know, I don't think I've ever hated anyone.
Was it Elon Musk or Trump?
It was Donald Trump. He has Trump derangement syndrome. You can be against Trump and not have Trump derangement syndrome. He clearly does. He was the former chief of staff of the California governor. He's my associate in political partnership and clients. We have been friends for years, but he really hates Donald Trump. And he's never hated a political figure that has stood for things Donald Trump stands for. So I understand it's unique, but we're getting off the subject. The point is, he hates someone. And he said to me, I wish he was dead. I mean, that's how much he hates him. Shit. And I thought to myself, even toning that down, I don't think I've hated, and I told him, I don't think I've hated anyone in my life. I've disliked things people have done. There have been some terrible things done to me. But
what's the worst thing someone's ever done to you?
Well,
or one of them,
as an adult, rather than the childhood stuff, it's somewhat political. Actually, I'm integrated in politics because I was a career political appointee, having served in many positions. I have never, but one time, been actually elected to anything. But so that's just a little snapshot of the context. So one day I decided I was going to run for city council in my local city. It was a low aspiration, and I raised more money than any candidate ever, any of the 6 candidates combined in the race. I also vowed to raise money outside of the neighborhood. So I became a real significant candidate with significant funds. I only put a small amount of my own funds in to start it up. And I became the guy to attack. So they did. They all attacked me, all 9 candidates. I remember going to a debate, and the question was, I'll get to your question. I'm just giving you the context. I remember the question in this debate was, why wouldn't the other candidates be qualified to be mayor, and why are you more qualified? I took that time of, maybe this is why I lost, but it goes to my nature. I took the time of that debate that almost 12,000 people watched in a neighborhood of about 20,000. And I said, the premise of the question is wrong. Every one of these people, and I went through every candidate one by one, saying why they would be a good mayor. I found something good to say about each one of the 9 candidates. Privately, 2 of them really were fabulous people, became lifelong friends. And I went through this presentation, and then I said, but I would be better. And I spent very little time explaining why I'd be better. In the end, I was treated very badly by 3 of the group of candidates who teamed up, and they did they got the newspaper, the local throwaway in that neighborhood, to do a story about me, claiming that I was a felon. I was a convicted car thief.
So was this fake news?
Yeah, it was before we talked about fake news. So it's a local paper, and it's a throwaway. It goes into the various local neighborhoods surrounding Los Angeles, small little neighborhoods.
If this was not true, couldn't you have sued them?
Yes, yes, you can. But when you're a public figure, suing for libel is almost impossible. It's strategically impossible to overcome the threshold. You have to prove intent, that they knew it was fake. That's the criteria. That's easy to, and as a public figure, held to a couple of other legal components. And I was a public figure essentially in that small race. And I'm not a litigious person. I don't sue people. In fact, I believe I have sued people, but I've never completed the action. I've used it as leverage. I'm not a litigious person. So this group developed a story with the newspaper, these 3 candidates, and they threw out a front page story, and they said he's a car thief. He stole this car in 1991 when he was a student. And the truth was, there was truth to this. The truth was, I had a misdemeanor conviction for not paying a rent-a-car fully on the bill, presenting my, but nobody cared about the truth in that race. They only looked at the subcomponent. Okay, this guy gets arrested, I did, in Los Angeles for having a stolen vehicle. That's how it starts. So the premise is, oh, well, this might be a car theft. Oddly, as it plays out, I go into the prosecutor and I said, Mr. Prosecutor, this is what I did. You know this already from the police investigation. I committed the act of joyriding. That's what the law is paraphrased as. It's the unlawful driving of a vehicle, not the theft of a vehicle. It's when you have permission to have possession of the vehicle, either by the bank, your mother, the rent-a-car company, the lease company, and the owner of the vehicle revokes permission. All right. That revocation occurred when my bill for the rental car stopped getting paid. And in California law, which is a big place, California, that turns out to be the only debt that I can think of that turns into from a collection matter to a misdemeanor. A misdemeanor is the lowest level crime one can commit. It's equivalent to reckless driving, citation. That's the equivalent. So
petty crime.
Yeah, it's incredible. So I went in and I told the prosecutor, this is the law I've committed. I'll plead no contest to this. I did it. I couldn't pay the bill. I was cut off by my family. They were paying the bill and they paid part of it. I presented a valid identification when I rented the vehicle. I presented my American Express card, which continued to pay that car for some time. And I have a pattern of renting exotic cars, all of them paid for. This one not so much. It turns out the insurance company had reimbursed the rental company for the car. The insurance company then sells the car and was reimbursed more than they reimbursed the insurance company. So I was not ordered to pay any restitution. Nobody lost financially. And this newspaper, these three candidates got this newspaper to say that Marcus never paid restitution. It's all how you word it, right? Of course, I never paid restitution because it was never ordered, because it was never owed anybody any restitution. So they lied. They said he's a car thief. It's a felony. It was a misdemeanor. Oh, and in the end, here's the best part. It was ordered dismissed. The legal word is dismissed. Charges dismissed by the judge in the end, which rewrote the history so that it didn't have to be a matter of record. The arrest was, but not the details of the conviction. So they can take facts and do terrible things to you. And these three people, you know, I know who they are. I know who they are that fed this newspaper. You can't blame the paper. This false information.
But you can blame the paper because they didn't do their journalist research.
Of course not. In fact, that paper was scheduled to endorse me, but they didn't after they got this information. And I think that caused my loss. It was an unfair loss. But anyway, the point is, I don't have hard feelings. I've prayed for these three people, and I made two life.
Prayed for them to die, or prayed?
No, I prayed that God forgives them for the evil that they bestowed upon me, because it wasn't like, look, you know, as I say a lot, you can criticize me for a lot of things. Fair enough. But you can't criticize me for something that's not true. Criticize me for who I am and things you don't like about me, and I'll welcome that, because I find that fun and challenging. And
yes, we all love a good challenge.
Justify my nonsense in my life. But I am a single man. I've been single all my life. When I say single, pardon me, I'm not married. I've never been married. I don't have children. I have been in committed long-term relationships. I've been single about 3 years since I'm 15 and a half. So I've had good, loving relationships, but I believe I have set my life. I'm set in my ways, and that's just who I am. So when you get into my category of lifestyle, you have certain proclivities that people don't appreciate. Let's just put it that way.
I just need to say a big thank you to Marcus Mandel, €2, a super chat from Marcus. Thank you. He says, the Lux Valuation Trust. Hey, thank you, Marcus. I appreciate the Lux Valuation Trust. It's on the screen if you can't see it.
I see it. Yeah. I see it. And Marcus has a lovely name. I remember thinking I wanted to recreate the spelling of my name, and I couldn't decide if I wanted to do Ques, Kus, or Cus. You know, I did that at one point, and I kept it at Cus.
And Marcus Mandel says, that's noble, Marcus. Noble and beautiful.
Thank you, Mandel. He's a good man, that Mandel.
You
know, I would like to know something, Mr. Lux. I don't ask questions here. You know, this is an odd place to be where I get to tell stories. And
yes,
I am curious. Mr. Archie is missing. Suddenly, I'm receiving a message that Mr. Lux, the fabulous Mr. Lux, is going to take over. Who is Mr. Lux, and why do I deserve the honor of your presence?
Oh, the honor is all mine. I am Mr. Lux. I live in Asia. I'm originally from Ireland, and I have traveled the world. I have a fascinating life, history of my life, not too dissimilar from yourself, to be honest. I'm a very private individual. I don't like to spruik too much stuff in the Archieverse. But yeah, I've got some fascinating stories myself.
Mr. Lux, what country
Yes,
are you from?
I'm currently in Thailand, but I gravitate around Southeast Asia. I've spent time in Myanmar, in Malaysia, Hong Kong. I've never been to the Philippines, so I do have some questions regarding
Oh,
the
that's good.
Philippines.
Let's talk about that. With one last question, I realize you should be asking me questions, but you don't have an accent, but you have a sound, and it
Yes,
also sounds East Coast American.
yes. I have lived in America. I have lived in Canada as well, so that might be some influence regarding the accent.
More of a
And
sound.
also, it goes back to I mentioned earlier about being classy. And my grandmother taught me not to have an accent
Oh, that's fascinating.
because I wouldn't be able to get a job all right, mate, yeah, how you doing? Can I have a job? You know, if I had a bit of a rough and ready accent, then nobody would employ me. So she taught me well. I'm very happy at how she taught me. So
Oh, that could be true. In America, we like accents. It's a positive attribute in job interviews. But I know around Asia, you know, they like American accents. You know, Canadian American, Western culture.
yes, but my time in America, I had to change my accent because nobody understood what I was saying. So I had to use their lingo for them to understand.
Well, you're kind of an international man of mystery because you using this nickname, Mr. Lux. We have a picture of a cat, but we will proceed anyway, as though you're my best friend. Go ahead. What should we talk about?
Oh, a quick question because you were talking about it, and it kind of interesting question. All of these questions you could just ignore them, move on anytime you want. Uh, you mentioned about your family cutting you off financially. What was the reason for that? Was there a drastic reason?
Yes, it was about 1990, 91, and they coincided my father and mother cutting me off completely financially with their full retirement from California to West Palm Beach. I didn't know they were heading to West Palm Beach. I did know they were going to leave the state. They were in transitional residence for some time. And my sister sums it up when my father died and I didn't get inheritance. My sister summed it up and said, well, you got yours while they were alive, because I did. But in 1991, 1990, whatever it was, suddenly my rent didn't get paid. And that was always a sign from my landlord to the American Express account. And then it was paid every month in full. That month, it wasn't paid. So I noticed the landlord got paid, but the bill did not get paid from American Express. So I was sorting that out to discover that the way the money was paid, my father's direction was not being paid, and that I couldn't reach my parents. So, and we can check the years, but I believe I was 26 at the time. I was in my last year of college. Maybe I was 27. Went to college a little later than most. I had already graduated, but I was still studying in classes. And so what I did when I was cut off, this was the same year that I rented the car. My personal car failed and I couldn't pay for the repair. So
what kind of car was you renting?
The rental was a BMW, a white BMW convertible, which was on the low end of what I normally rented. I rented these exotic cars from Beverly Hills budget Beverly Hills routinely. You know, a weekend could be $200 a day at the time, but probably now they're significantly more. And I would rent exotic cars for a few days. In this case, this all happened very fast. And I traveled to Arizona. I rented the car in Arizona, stayed in Arizona for a while with friends, sorting things out. And I just had to get away. And then I drove back to California with that vehicle, couldn't pay that vehicle, couldn't pay the rent. I couldn't pay my food. Things were rough. I mean, I went to zero income. my tuition was coming due. That wasn't paid. I'm trying to remember. All these things were adding up. In the end, I got a job at a dating service, the most rewarding job I've ever had in my life.
Oh,
I was there 1 year, 2 months. They paid me at the time like $12 an hour, which wasn't bad for an entry-level minor job. I was a matchmaker, consultant, videographer, matched hundreds of people up. Anyway,
wow. That's a very interesting job.
I reunited with my parents very quickly, within a few months. I had to force it on them. I flew to Palm Beach. I had luckily a prepaid ticket on hold, you know, and I flew to Palm Beach with no money. And I showed up at their door unexpectedly. I found them. I had some, you know, I had to pay to find out where they are, but I did it. I did what I could. I got there. We renewed the friendship. I told them I had a job. They were very happy. And then after about 1 year and 2 months, I got a professional job, one a career related. It was not in the only non-political job I've ever really held that was career related. And I stayed there 3 years. I made very significant money as an administrator of a medical corporation. How I got that job is amazing. And to this day, I still get repeated offers from the owner of that corporation. As recently as a couple of weeks ago, Marcus, come work for me at my big company. He does software now. He was a medical doctor that ran a multi-specialty group all over Los Angeles, and I ran that for him. But so that was the transition, and I moved forward, and I paid my own bills.
So your parents are very wealthy.
No, I wouldn't say they were very wealthy, but they were wealthy. They did have substance, you know, substance.
Was this a generational wealth, or was just their
Oh no,
jobs?
my father earned every penny. Unlike you, who, I'm sorry about your loss of your grandparent, I never met my grandparents. I was also adopted, so I never met grandparents any side of that family relationships. But I had 2 wonderful parents. They raised me very well. We had no family crises except me. And it's okay when you're the family crisis, because then you know you don't get raised with trauma. I had no traumas. And my mother called it tough love. And she said, we did this to get you off the payroll.
Off the teat. Get you off the teat.
Yes, and you know, they did. They did. I was traveling around the country and the world, and I remember the last straw. This was the last straw. I had graduated. I had enrolled in some graduate school classes at USC, and I went to my mother and I said, "Look, I want to go to Oxford." I got into Oxford, and I got into the University of Pittsburgh's cruise ship. And I said, I want to go on the cruise. It was a summer cruise ship, summer program semester. I want to do that. And then I want to get to Oxford in the fall and study. Well, having been already to Yale, Harvard, Pepperdine University, Moore Park Community College, the University of Southern California, over 5.5 years, my parents said, we think it's enough. And you already pursued 2 degrees. Let's cut it out. And I said, no, I want to go to University of Pittsburgh cruise ship, and I want to go to Oxford. I got in for the following semester, and they wouldn't let me. And that was simultaneously with their travel to Palm Beach in a flurry. You know, and it was quite an experience, but boy, did I learn a lot.
Regarding something you mentioned earlier, regarding transactional relationships, friendships, may I ask, what is the real agenda behind your public appearance in the Archieverse? Are you setting the stage for something bigger?
Well, I think I already did something bigger. This is originally I was suddenly famous on TikTok, very suddenly, and big, 4 million viewers, and monetized it was monetized in about 16 weeks. And then I was off TikTok in 18 weeks. That's a story in itself. But the point is, I was bigger than Dr. Phil, who I noticed only had 2 million followers at the time. He was new to TikTok. I'm sure he's exceeded my level, but that is a very high level. That's more, in fact, TikTok said in the last they call it they call it what do they call it? An analytic. In the last analytic, they had a narrative, not just a list of numbers. And it said, you're more popular on TikTok in 16 weeks. I don't believe I saw the 18-week one. 16 weeks, more popular on TikTok in 16 weeks than 187% of anyone ever. Now, that within that period of time. And when I was on TikTok for 3 weeks, I got the same thing, because normally you wouldn't get analytics that quickly. You're more popular. I was 52% more popular on TikTok within that short period of time than anyone on TikTok. And I was rising fast. I was also under attack. I had to leave TikTok. That's another day, another story. But it was for my safety, frankly. The people that liked me were after me. The people that didn't like me hated. Some people hated me. Some people loved me. But I was promoting goodness, God-based values, God-based advice, anti-bullshit.
But do you still have this account now?
No, it's closed. It's completely abolished. And I am not on TikTok even as an observer. I was there for 4 years. I loaded 5 dog videos just to, open it.
So how do we prove what you're saying is true?
Well, well, I have all my TikTok videos, and I thought about some of them are on my Facebook, and I did create something called Dear Marcus Allen on Facebook, and I just said, I'm going to reload all these TikTok. I didn't. I reloaded some of them. So feel free to, if you join.
Maybe we could upload them to the Archie Luxury Network.
Well, you know what I was thinking? I was serious. Well, the problem is, okay, so they're long videos for TikTok. They're 10 minutes. And there's about, do the math. I did 3 to 5 a week. I was doing lives with 120 viewers, but 120,000 viewers. But you have to know the story of why did I become fastly famous in the first 3 weeks. It was a terrible situation. I don't want to repeat it here, but I did not take down that video. It was a misunderstood video. I left it up. You take something down on TikTok, they will haunt you. And it was missing for 3 days. I appealed it, and they restored it. I never took it down. But it's a longer story that we don't have time for. But the point to your question is, I thought somehow I could help Archie. This is really the Marcus Allen Frishman show was his idea. I just offered Archie. No one knows this. Maybe I shouldn't say this. I sent him an email, and I said, Archie, I've never met you in person, but you know who I am. I tried to buy your watch in 2017 or whenever it was. We talked in email. I'm a viewer. When you came to America, I sent you some messages. You never wanted to meet with me. And I've noticed that you don't know who your friends are. You don't know who good people are. You're not a good judge of good people. And people have trashed you that you supposedly are intertwined with on a friendly basis. I will never do that. I happen to be pretty famous on TikTok. Maybe something I could do to spruce up your account. And then he said he would take it under consideration. It was a long message suggesting something. Unclear. He came back and said, I'll think about it, essentially. And then he came to me and he said, I'd like to do the Marcus Frishman show. Send me your pictures. We'll put it on my YouTube. We'll do it once a week. He set it up. He picked the time. Yes. Works for me. The day, I had no idea. And here we are. And it doesn't seem to be a very popular show, frankly. But
regarding the transaction, is there any benefit for yourself?
There is none. There is no benefit to me that I can see. I can see all the list of negatives, but I'm here to help Archie because he was in need. I like to help people if I can. I'm not writing him checks. I have tried to help Archie financially twice. I wanted to.
Wait, are you saying that Archie has refused donations?
No. Well, I haven't donated, but I have, hold on, I dropped something. I have tried, wait, there we go. I dropped something. I have tried twice, and I complained recently. I said, Archie, when I go to your Patreon or whatever it is, the link he sends me, or that he sends everyone, I go on there, and it requires that I be a member, and I join and then be continually billed like I'm subscribing to a cable company. Yes. And you know what, Archie? I'd like to do a one-time a one-time contribution. And I sent that an email to him a couple of weeks ago. He responded outside of the show. We didn't talk about it during the show that I recall. And he said, "You're right. I don't have that option." And I thought, well, that's silly. And I remember years ago, because I watched his show, I wanted to, be a contributor, but I wasn't, because I'm generally cheap. I didn't want to have an ongoing contribution. I went to his Patreon, it wouldn't allow me then either. And I remember complaining about it then. But that's so yes, there is no benefit.
You can send a PayPal to Archie, archieluxury72@gmail.com.
Oh, he didn't suggest that, but yeah, and I have PayPal. I will consider, absolutely. There's a quick solution. I will consider that.
Yeah, one time.
I have PayPal. But you're right. I have never contributed to him. He has asked nothing of me. I've suggested this, and he put it together.
Fair enough.
We have fun. It's actually. I asked him. I said, Archie, you can cut this off anytime you want if it's not working out. I said something like that a couple of weeks ago. I said, what about our viewers? And he said, it's doing fine. It's doing fine. We'll just keep doing it. Okay.
Are you open to questions from the viewers?
Sure. Well, let me tell you what I'm open for. I'm open to people that disagree with me.
So should we allow viewers on board to
if you'd like? I don't want haters. I don't like haters. Haters are not disagreeers. Haters are not worthy. But people that say, Marcus, I'll give you an example. Marcus, what do you know? You have no qualifications. You're giving out advice. I'm giving you an example of a disagreeer. You're not qualified to give people advice. You know what? That's a valid disagreement. Let's have at it. But to get on here and to call names, I see these comments after each show. I read each one of them. I copy and paste the most interesting ones, and I send them to Archie and a couple of friends of mine who enjoy reading them. I copy and paste all the ones that are, let's just say, interesting, negative and positive. So yes, I like people that disagree.
Because I think this show would really boom if people could have a genuine debate, discussion, not just a genuine discussion or debate, like you say. No hatred, no craziness, just a debate or a discussion.
Exactly. People will misjudge you. People will judge you. I remember you get judged very easily. And they'll say to you things you've never said, and then they'll attribute it to you that you said it. I don't know where this nonsense comes from exactly, but whatever.
Regarding the Philippines,
yes,
I've never been to the Philippines. Is it safe? Because I've heard it's not safe.
The Philippines is not safe when you in the immediate vicinity outside of Manila. We're talking about foreigners now, not Filipinos. For Filipinos, crime is high in Manila. Greater Manila is about 30 million people. It's a very large population in what is a fairly small size city. Then there is Greater Manila, the provinces that surround Manila. I could list them all. It would take me a minute, but the point is, those provinces are dangerous. Last I checked, the Philippines averages about 200 kidnappings a year.
Oh,
now, when you get kidnapped in the Philippines, only one that I can recall. I looked at this. I watched this. I saw one in all these years in Manila. A Chinaman. It was his second kidnapping, and I call him a Chinaman, but he's Chinese. Pardon me. And he was kidnapped. But there were 200 kidnappings outside of Manila a year. Some are in the deep South Philippines. Some are in the immediate provinces. But Philippine Manila is safe for foreigners. Very safe. Be careful when you travel. When I got to the Philippines, I was a government official doing government work. So I traveled with 4 bodyguards in 2 separate cars. And I remember the day I had freedom and I left the Shangri-La Hotel. And my team was just furious. What have you done? I said, I got into a taxi and I'm free at last, to quote a wonderful American.
Do you have any pictures of this? I would love to see.
I have pictures of what? The Philippines?
I mean, you say you had bodyguards. Did you not take a picture of your bodyguards or anything like
Yeah,
that?
I have pictures of all of that stuff. I mean, I was in the Philippines from 2023. I had to go to the Philippines to be honored by the Philippine government for something that I did inadvertently in California that helped the Philippine economy. California, as you know, the fourth largest economy of the world. People don't know that. It's bigger than many countries. The fourth largest economy of the world means it's bigger than everybody, okay, except for 4 countries, including America. So that makes it 30, right? So the Philippines took investments from California. We have an entity called CalPERS. It is singly the largest public-private investment pool in the world. There is no private investment pool or public investment pool that is larger than something called CalPERS. CalPERS invests money in the Philippines, and they were going to divest. That put the Philippine stock market in shudders. It dropped 33 points. The economy was going to collapse. Long story short, it would take 15 minutes to explain. I single-handedly fixed it in California. Not only didn't we cut it out, but the Philippine government received a bonus later, increased investment. The president in her SANA, which is the State of the Union for the Philippines, GMA was the president, Gloria, in her SANA that I was invited to, she attributed 4 things to the success of the economy. There I was sitting in my suit and tie, one of the few people in a tie and not a barong at the crowd, thinking I would be stand and introduced like the American president does when there's someone distinguished. But no, I got no introduction. She took full credit for what I did, but that's okay. She listed what I did as one of the 4 pillars of her economic recovery that already occurred, because it did. It was finished. And then I kept returning to the Philippines for 35-day visits, 3 to 4 times a year for 5 years, living at the Etsa Shangri-La on an official mission. And I want to show you something. I'm going to leave my spot here, but please stand by.
Okay, we are standing by. This is the Marcus Allen Frishman live stream show. If you're enjoying this show, click the thumbs up. If you got any questions, you're welcome to super chat and support Luxie and support Alan Frishman.
I want to show you when I returned from the Philippines that first time. I wonder what's happening to my camera. When I returned from the Philippines for that first time, the state of California, unbeknownst to me, changed the plaque on my door.
Oh.
And they changed the plaque on my door to this. This is the plaque on my former government door. Read it. Can we read it? Can we see it?
Chief.
Oh my God. I can't get rid of the background. There we go.
Ambassador and Chief Deputy Marcus Frishman, Honorable Esquire.
Yes. So the reason I got that title, Ambassador to the Philippines, I was not the ambassador. You could legitimately call me California's government liaison to the Philippines. That would have been a working title. Neither were my real title. But here's what happened one morning, and I'm going to stop with this story unless you have questions. One morning, I'm being honored for the 3rd or 4th time to visit the Speaker of the House of Representatives of the Philippines, Mr. De Venetia, before Sonny Belmonte, who became my dear friend. Sonny Belmonte was the next speaker. The Speaker of the Philippines, Speaker De Venetia, she would have me for breakfast. One morning, I arrived at the ambassador's home. I'm sitting in the lobby of his home, and any Filipino that had connections with him knows this lobby. They know he entertains at his house as opposed to his office, this particular speaker, De Venetia. And I was sitting waiting next to the staircase. I was with my colleague, Romeo Vinson, the highest ranking appointed Filipino in California. I appointed Romeo Vinson with my boss's authority. And there I am waiting, and the speaker is coming down the steps. This is probably a year into me saving the Philippine economy with this thing I did to save this massive investment from America. And he's walking down the steps to my right, next to a very tall, lanky man that I recognized but didn't know who it was. It turns out that man was the ambassador to the Philippines from America, a Spanish name, Spanish gentleman, but he was an American, and he'd been a long-serving ambassador in the Philippines. And he's the man who'd been inviting me to the American embassy tennis courts for parties. I have never showed up there. I didn't have any interest in showing up to the federal government's compound in the Philippines. I had my reasons. But he came down the steps. I recognized him. He wouldn't recognize me. I was sitting in a chair across the hall from the main door. He was being let out. He was leaving. I was having breakfast with the speaker. He had a pre-breakfast meeting. And then Speaker Divanisha calls me to the door. There's a picture of this very moment profiled on my Facebook and, you know, in my personal data. It's the ambassador of America looking at me. You can see him clearly. The back of my head looking at him, the speaker next to the ambassador. And I presented my American Filipino card. It has an American flag and a Filipino flag. And I presented it to him and I said, Mr. Ambassador, I'm honored to meet you. I'm Marcus Allen from California. I gave him my calling card and I said, you know, Mr. Ambassador, you should put both flags on your card. And he laughed. And then Speaker Divanisha said, Mr. Ambassador, speaking to the real American ambassador, Mr. Ambassador, I'll never forget this. Mr. Ambassador, I'd like you to meet the real ambassador from America, the only ambassador who helps the Philippine people nowadays.
Wow.
There was a third compliment. Forgive me, I'm forgetting forgetting it right now. 3 components to this. And then the ambassador says to me, he tries to control himself, and he says to me, what do you do here? And I say, I just vacation here. I don't just vacation there. I'm sure when he got back to his embassy, he handed that card to his little CIA national security friends and says, what's Frishman doing here? Who the hell is this guy that the speaker says is the real ambassador? All right, so that's a great, you know, and that leads into a whole bunch of other stories about my electronic transmissions and very funny stuff. But let's move beyond that. So that's how I get nicknamed, and I never, you know, I use some lofty. I never have called myself, just so we're clear, the ambassador to from California to the Philippines.
By the way, we have some super chats. We have McLobster, $5 US. Thank you, McLobster, for supporting the show. It's an honor to have Lux here. Thank you for bringing him Marcus.
Well, they like you, Lux.
Well,
you know,
sometimes.
I'm looking at something here. I see one. I don't, you know, so you cut me off if you don't want me to make reference. I'm looking at some of these comments that usually I don't look at until the end. I see one man, poor old Dath Nagus. He writes the word rape, ?
Oh,
you know, I don't understand how people think. How can you have such evil thoughts? How can you accuse?
Sorry, who put that comment? I'll time them out.
I just moved. Well, you know, I'm not for blocking people. I just think, good old.
Yeah, but there's nastiness and there's nastiness, right?
It just seems. So,
which person was this? What was the name of the user?
No, I just said his name. Did you?
No, sorry.
It's all very random. Yeah, but he puts the one word. Oh, here's one. We'll find it in a minute. Here's one I like. Gilden, Math is the next Kardashian. You know, they ruined my neighborhood. I grew up in Calabasas, middle school, high school, before middle school, college. I would go back home on weekends. That was my neighborhood. That's where the only place I've known them to ever live. And they really ruined the neighborhood. I had to get out. But let's find our nasty friend. Where the hell is he? I can't find it. I don't see it now. There are a lot of comments here. It's okay to disagree. You know, I welcome that. I find disagreement to be interesting.
Yeah, now, but there's disagreement and then there's complete nonsense.
The reason disagreement is good is sometimes you get enlightened by other people and you change your mind, you evolve.
Yes.
Also, you can push back and say, no, you're utterly wrong, or maybe you're both right. It just terribly.
Thank you, McLobster, for the support. I really appreciate that. It's really nice. We got more support from Pickled Pickle, £2 British. Can we see your pens, Marcus? Do you have a pen collection?
I have a few here. I have a few here. You know, it's getting dark in this room. I have a few here. Hold on. Let me just. All right. So I have my favorite pen. This pen is a Visconti. Ooh. It is made from the ash of a volcano. Wow. The metal is bronze, solid. It is a fountain pen, and I have a ballpoint to match, and it is one of my favorites. It is called Homo. You know, people always correct me on here when I get it wrong. I believe it's called Homo sapien, and it has this lovely gear connection. I don't know if you can see it, but you put it in, and you turn it, and it just gears closed.
Yes, yes.
And the lovely matching, I think that's about $1,000. The lovely matching ballpoint, I think this is $300 or $400. I can't remember. This is the most magnificent writer. Of course, it depends what's in the ink, and I believe I put something special in there. It may be Parker Reserve. Yeah. So it's a great little pen. I have a lot of pens. I have this lovely, this is one of my best writers. This is a oh my goodness, what the hell's the name of it? It's you know, I'm not like Archie. I forget. Look, I have 1,000 pens. I think I'm exaggerating. I have a couple hundred. I can't remember them all.
What's your favorite? What's your favorite go-to pen that you use on a daily basis?
On a daily, you know, I'm not sure I have. I'd say you're to find this strange. I guess the pen I use mostly, it's not in front of me now, is a cross, a traditional cross pen. I've forgotten already. What do they call it? The city cross, the city pen. It's the slim, narrow, comes in gold, silver. It's about $35. I have a lot of pens here, actually.
The art of writing is getting lost. It really is getting lost.
Oh yeah, you have to also get the correct paper or these fountain pens. Now I get pens from Independence. Tactile Turn. God, I hope I'm not misnaming this brand. I have one in purple, one in red, one in orange. They're custom made. I think it's a beautiful pen. You can order them with different metals. I have to order the clip separately because I like clips. I clip all my pens. I believe you wear a pen. You don't put it in your pocket. So I put my pens always on my shirt. That's how I roll. You know, Parker, these Parkers are, this is not a Parker. It looks like one though, doesn't it? It's a look-alike. Anyway, enough with pens. What about these? You had some questions about the Philippines or something.
I do. Before we get to that, we have another super chat. We got lots of super chats today. Mentor Jock, 18 Arab Emirate Durham, Marcus, aka Peter Pan. Can you explain your forever boy thing? Does that excuse you for certain actions as a man in his 50s?
Yes, I can, and yes, it does. So I learned a long time ago when I did research. I have a minor in if there was a minor issued by the University of Southern California, I would have had a minor in psychology. They didn't do minors and majors. I read a book and I learned about something called the Peter Pan syndrome. It's puer aeternus is the Latin phrase for forever boy. So I researched it and I thought, gosh, that's me. And I know why. When you're unmarried, when you're single and live alone and have certain initial personality characteristics like me, you grow up not growing up. You grow up with certain things held back in maturity. And that's why I live a different kind of life than most other men that are my contemporaries. I don't know that it's a good or a bad trait, except when you have to interact with others. Okay, so that's who I am. It is a classification of personality characteristic.
So when you say some parts lack maturity, what parts? Give me an example of what
I'm not
is
sure.
holding you back.
I'm not sure it's a lack of maturity, but I would say it's a lack of growth in certain lifestyle issues, developmental issues. You know, I drive around in a fun car.
Oh, that's good. I love to drive fun cars.
You know, most men, most of my contemporaries, they'll drive something practical.
Yeah, forget that. Family oriented.
That's right. Until they have their crisis, and then they get a car late in life. You know, I was telling someone the other day, I've had 5 Porsches, multiple Porsches, a Triumph convertible, I have all these cars, and I think it's time I buy an adult car. And
I think it's, sorry to interrupt you. I think it's more of because they're being controlled by the lady, and the lady, they all those men would love to have a fun car, but all the ladies have controlled them and says, no, you're not having that car. We need a people carrier. We need to be able to put the dogs in the back. We need to do this. We need to do that. You're not having that, and the lady stops it.
You're right. And you know what? I chew bubble gum. I'm a regular bubble gum chewer. I blow bubbles. All right. I suspect, and I have to get my bazooka from special sources. I have a fresh bag downstairs that wasn't so good. It has the bazooka label, and you know, it looks like chiclets, if you ever know what those are. But the point is, I'm a bubble gum enthusiast. I can go on and on. I'm kind of stuck fashion-wise in the 1980s. I wear topsiders. I still wear T-shirts under all my shirts. There are certain components of my life. When you think of Puer Aeternus Forever Boy, don't over-exaggerate that to believe that I'm a teenager type. Okay, I'm not. You know, but certainly I haven't developed the maturity of a man my age, and it has to do with lots of things in my life. I listen to a lot of music. I enjoy watching a movie every night. You know, I don't think a lot of people do that. I play with things. I have toys.
Are you a
you know?
Do you think before you do anything? Are you spontaneous? You just do.
No.
You just.
I'm not spontaneous. I am a planned, regimented, everything at the same time. Repeat. Very few new things. Something new. Now, this is a big deal for me. I ordered a new cologne from Neiman Marcus. It was risky. I haven't had a new cologne since, in fact, so far back, it would have to go back several decades. So I have my selection of colognes, but I decided, I won't bore you with why, I decided to get this. It's fabulous. So yeah, I don't do things differently. I'm stuck in this time period. Also, I reflect on the past, not the future. I find
that's not, yeah.
No interest in the future. People think about I've never had goals.
Oh shit, that's not good.
No, I have accomplished success financially. I've accomplished success in love, not marriage. I've accomplished success in many components in my life, but it's because I've experienced something and I've repeated it. And to respond to your comment, the woman won't let you get the car. That's the problem. You men have married your girlfriends. You don't marry your girlfriend. You marry someone. A girlfriend's often the opposite. Opposites attract. They're a lot of fun and doomed for disaster, whether you've divorced or not. What you marry is a woman that's like you, a mimic, mirror. So you don't change your
you know they say that in general men marry someone that is very similar to their sister.
Their sister?
Yes.
well, as I like to say, I'm an only child, but I have 2 sisters.
By the way, we got super chats. I apologize to Patrick B. We got super chats. $5 to all my friends in the chat. Good night from Texas. Thanks for the show, Luxy. Hey, thank you, Patrick B. Thank you for the support, and have a good night. I hope you're enjoying the show, and wish everything is good in Texas. We love Texas. I've never been, but I'd love to go.
I had a girlfriend that I met in college in the East Coast, and then when we left our schools respectively, this was Yale, when I was in Yale, and she lived her name was Suzanne D'Armand. I think she's a lawyer now. I haven't stayed in touch. And she lived in Dallas, Texas, and I would fly and stay at a place called the mansion on Turtle Creek. I don't know if it's still there, but I would go there until her mother said, stop staying there, stay with us. And I did. And she was just a wonderful, wonderful girl.
We have another super chat. We got Truth Everlasting, $2. I'm a booty and booby enthusiast. Do you like the booty or the boobies, Marcus?
Well, people that are close to me know this answer. While I am not focused sexually, and I've said that and got into detail on that in another video, I have to say that I am a boob man. I have I don't want to call it a boob fetish, but I certainly have a boob thing. I don't need, let me put it this way. I really don't need sex, but I do need boobs. And I don't know if they should be large or small or any of that nonsense, but there's your answer.
So when you say you don't need sex, but you're talking about something that excites you.
Yes, I have been abstinent since 1991, mostly due to the fact that my girlfriends have been virgins. Long-term committed relationships. I've never had a casual relationship. I've only put myself into that situation once.
How do you know they were virgins?
Well, all of them self-claimed, self-created.
Because
but yes, there's a two-part answer. Also, some of them physically were in fact virgins. I'm speaking.
Okay, you checked. Did you check?
And some just claimed. But the point is, I found matches, women that were interested in sensuality more than sexuality, and that's me. What can I tell you? That goes back to being a forever boy, maybe.
Do you not get urges if you've not?
I'm not driven. I'm not driven sexually. It's a thing, and it's always my closest friends know it. And there's jokes. Oh, he's gay. Well, of course he's not. If I was gay, that would be driven sexuality. Of course I'm not gay. I don't have a gay bone in my body. I am a metrosexual. I mean, I get my nails done. I know the contents of shampoo bottles. I used to do the nails and facials for girls in college because that's how I wanted to meet them.
Is it because of any past traumas?
No, I have none.
Zero traumas. I mean, we all have traumas.
I think the only trauma that exists in my past is the sudden knowledge that I was adopted. And I didn't know that to my late.
Because that's a trauma. That's a huge trauma.
Well, yeah, but look, I'm great with handling stuff. People say Frishman doesn't have feelings. Frishman has no sensitivity. People that know me say this about me. He's not empathetic, although that's wrong. But the rest is true. And I think the reason is I've never had stress in I don't believe I have had a stressful moment in my life. I don't have stress. That doesn't mean I didn't have problems. I know how to deal with them.
What was the terrorist bounty hunting? Was that not stressful?
No. No. Let me just put it this way. If that terrorist came into my house while I was sleeping, because there's a bounty on my head, let me assure you, there'd be a bullet between his head before he had a chance to shoot.
I mean, it's a big claim to say that you've never felt stressed. Did you?
I'm telling you. Let me. I'm a religious man. Let me swear to God.
Was you not stressed when you couldn't pay the car rental bill? I'd be stressed.
No. The car was the least of my concern, actually. That was kind of interesting to me, that process. But and you know, they suspend your sentence. They might say, oh, you know, you have 3 months in jail, but you don't go to jail. You get suspended. You do work release. You know, so you know, people say things, they don't know what they're talking about. But no, I'm stretching. What has stressed me out? The death of my dogs and my cat. Was that stressful? That was more. That was just sad moments. I don't know that identify that with stress, but those were bad days. But you know what? You recover. You move on. You can't dwell in the past. You know, my mother died. I was very close to my mother. She died. I went to work that day. And
but that's a traumatic. That's like I'm very lucky. My mother's alive.
Yes,
that's very traumatic.
Yes, but you can't let trauma ruin your day. I took a half day off, and then I went to work. You know, and people said, "What are you doing at work?"
But maybe that's a coping mechanism, because I've seen that. That's a coping mechanism because of the stress.
And for me, I think it's healthy, because it makes. If I had to sit home and look at the four walls and think about my mother, maybe that creates stress. I don't do that. I don't do anything. I had a video on this on YouTube where I got into how to be stress-free, and I think that means you just don't. You have to control it. You don't worry about stuff. Things happen.
But how can you make a video about stress-free if you've never experienced stress? You said you've never.
Yeah, I don't recall any stress. But let me tell you what I think helps not experience stress. I think I just remembered that video. In the end, I wondered myself, and here's what I came up with. Now that I'm recalling the details, I came up with the fact that I prepare for the worst. I prepare for disaster. I prepare for the worst thing to happen in all circumstances, whether it's dinner out, the drive down the street, or something more significant. And particularly in interactions with my clients and the work I do with my clients, I prepare for the worst, and I make a list in my head. And so if it happens, I'm prepared. I deal with it. And I do that in my personal life too. I think about it. It goes through my head. And then it's never it's hard. Well, I'm trying to think, has it ever been the worst case scenario? No. But if it was, I would have been prepared for it.
So we have another super chat. Thank you very kindly to Muck Lobster, $2. This is for the orphans of the Philippines. Hey, we will make sure that Archie sends that $2 to the orphans of the Philippines.
There are a lot of orphans in the Philippines. The Philippines has massively amounts of rich people. 4.5% of that country is the 1% of American rich. That's how rich they are. And they're concentrated in the Philippines, in Manila. But the rest of the country, 80% unemployment, and then the unemployed are poor, and then the few that work in the supposed middle class, let's call it, it's not what they call it, they have to share their income with that 80%. So it becomes diminished. It's a terrible economic.
Does the Philippines have any commodities?
It's an oligarchy. They have commodities, but they don't know how. They can't even make their own rice. They can't even domestically supply enough rice.
Because they don't really have the land, right? Because it's just very small islands, right?
Well, they have an excuse for everything, but they have great capabilities, but they choose to. I want to be careful here not to criticize the Philippine government, but look, I love Imelda Marcos. She's my dearest friend. I think the president is fabulous. He's the best president ever. I thought that of the previous president as well, not so much the one that honored me. But the fact is, the Philippine government is an oligarchy, and they have a slave class. And
it's of the interest of the elites to keep the population poor.
But here's something to note. They call themselves, and they self-identify as a third world country. Pull up the list of third world countries, check their national budgets and economic ability, and you'll see they're all pathetic. The Philippines is rich. The Philippine government is massively rich. They have a lot of money in the Philippine government. Okay. And they have a lot of investments. And while they don't manage some of that well, and while they have corruption institutionalized, they got money. They aren't a third. They're a third. Let me phrase this. They are a third world country by choice. And that's just terrible, because the people there, the majority.
Technically, they're a developing country, right?
Yes, but they they don't want to be developed. I hope the new president will change that. But there's if he does too much like the previous president, the oligarchy, might take care of him. And I'm sorry to say, that's how it operates there. Let's stay away from politics.
And when you're referring to the previous president, I don't know too much about politics in the Philippines.
Oh, the previous president was Duarte.
Is that the guy that did a mass drug shutdown of the cartels? And
yes, that was
going
him.
After. Yeah,
he's under siege at the World Court. I will point out that the charges against him are isolated to when he was mayor of Davao and when he was enforcing that in his community of Davao, Philippines, not when he was president and actually ordered the assassinations, from what I can tell from reading online the charges, because they have the families in Davao that they're using to testify against him for what they called summarily killing people who were accused of drug dealing.
So what would you do differently? How would, if you was president of the Philippines?
I told the former president when I went to the Philippines that, and I'm not an economic expert, although I was senior fellow for the American Conservative Union in charge of national security and economic affairs. When I was in college, I took that sideline job in Washington, D.C. But when I did that, I learned a lot about economics because they gave me this fabulous title that I had no qualifications in. And I told the president of the Philippines that there was one significant, and I've told many leaders there, I told the former speaker, Belmonte, there's one, and they know this, she was an economist, for God's sakes, too. And I said, look, there's one thing about the Philippines that needs to be corrected that will fix everything. What's that? I was asked. The minimum wage. Your minimum wage, well, now it's about 500 or 600, I forget, I haven't kept up. It's about 500 pesos. That's about, what is 500 pesos now? $15, $10, whatever it is, per day. Here's the thing. You need to make your minimum wage what all Western countries are. And that would be, at the time, I told her 4,000.
That's impossible. That's impossible.
Well, hold on a minute. 4,000 is what she said. 4,000 pesos a day. You don't have to give the benefits of employment that are bestowed upon American and Western cultured workers, but you need to get them paid 4,000. Well, how do we do that? It's very simple. I went there, I should tell you, as a consultant that would have had the single largest contract the Philippines has ever issued. The president of the Philippines agreed if I got her cabinet to endorse it, she would sign it. This and that happened. She had some scandals. She signed a big contract with the Chinese. I never got that contract. But the point is I had to study it. I had a team, and I looked at their revenue sources. And here's the problem. The country's companies are run by an oligarchy. I'm going to exaggerate a bit to make my point. One guy owns the malls. There's really three. One guy owns all the watch companies. If we're talking watches, this is a watch channel, right? There's one guy. He owns all the watch brands. And all the watch brands, how many Rolex stores they have in the Philippines? The point is, the Chowking guy, it's the largest fast food restaurant in the world. I met him. I had dinner with him. Here's the problem. Their profit margins are in the 98, 99, 95, 97 percentile profit margins for all these major companies. In America, you'd be lucky in an average business or a major business if your profit margins are between 8 and 13%. The only companies in America that have...
because the salaries are too high, yes, expenses are rents are too high.
Exactly. The only businesses that make 25% profits are utility companies, some other exceptions. There's a long list of exceptions, but by and large, that's what you make. It has to be created in the Philippines. And now I'm a Republican, I'm a conservative, I'm a Trump-loving American, but they need labor unions in the Philippines. They need protection of the workers in Philippines. They need that minimum wage.
So basically, you want to turn the Philippines into a Western world shithole. I mean, the West is falling apart because of this shit.
for different reasons, though. I'm with
The
you there,
UK is absolutely fucked.
It is.
America is fucked. Canada's fucked. Australia's fucked.
Yes. Well, you know who did that?
You want to turn the Philippines into the same thing?
No. I think they could be a utopia. You know what's killing America and Australia and Europe? Lawyers. The legal liability component is creating and driving up expenses in every category. And it's all about lawyers. It's all about lawsuits. It's all about liability. If you study that and go a deep dive.
I believe that the downfall of the West is manufactured to make Asia the new first world. Yeah, and the West is going to be the second and third world. It's going to be just falling apart. And they're using immigration to make that happen. Illegal immigration is being forced upon the people to make the downfall of the West.
I agree with everything you said. So there may be several components. I point out legal liability issues, but whatever.
There's a super chat. McLobster, $2 US. Marcus, please share your favorite expression in Tagalog.
I don't speak. Look, in the Philippines, people ask me, "Don't you speak Tagalog?" The Philippines speak.
How do you pronounce it?
Tagalog. Philippines speaks English. Everybody. There are few people that don't. They even speak English to each other. And they speak English on TV, and the movies are in English. They have a sizable amount of their own language being spoken, yes, but there's nowhere I can't go, or let me rephrase that. There's nowhere that I go in the Philippines that there isn't English in abundance. I've never actually run into a single Filipino that did not speak English in my visits. 4 months a year since 2003, I live in the Philippines. But there are certain categories of people, let's generalize here, that have limited English. I know the categories. Taxi drivers, limited English. Taxi drivers are generally men, not generally. Taxi drivers are men, and they are older, above 60 years old. They are uneducated. These aren't stereotypes. These aren't opinions. I'm giving you empirical facts about taxi drivers, and they don't speak English well, but they do speak English. So that is the most extreme category, and taxis are everywhere in every province of the Philippines.
Can I ask you regarding the big subject that is the bounty, the terrorist bounty hunting?
Yes.
Regarding that,
bounty's on my head. Remember.
Regarding that, so were you chasing justice or were you chasing the $5 million?
I was chasing a. Funny you say that. I know the answer. I'm just trying to put it into phrase. I was chasing a show on the History Channel. I wanted to do a live stream, and I wanted to do a video, and I wanted to do a movie of this before we did it. And the State Department, U.S. State Department, would have nothing to do with it. So I thought, well, we'll do it anyway. But the plan fell apart. And then I was caught into it without that component, the very component that I was watching Dog the Bounty Hunter.
Yes, I've seen that.
I love Dog. And Dog goes into Mexico. I sat down with some people who have Southern connections, and I said to them straight out, can't we find?
So you had a fantasy of being Dog.
I had this fantasy, but they said yes, and we ultimately got the target location. I worked with the State Department to target that person over multiple years. There were 2 battles. The State Department turned it over to the National Police Force. The National Police killed him, and you know, and life goes on. There's a longer version of that. Yeah.
So in
2000, to bring to your point, at whatever date it was, and I could play the recording right here on the show, and it take 5 minutes to find, where Robert, the son of the Ombudsman of the Philippines, who is the Ombudsman, it's the largest highest-ranking law enforcement official in the Philippines. It's like an American Attorney General, except they're focused on corruption and going after politicians. We don't have a quite equivalent in America, but they're at the level of the attorney general. It's the highest you can get. And they oversee full investigations. His son became my friend. His son and I are very close. He is a consultant in the Philippines. He's an Australian, lives in Australia and the Philippines. And he was in South Philippine helping a senatorial candidate get elected. When he contacted me that very day, we had a video call. I recorded it. And he said, Marcus, I was sitting with a senatorial candidate in South Philippines. He may or may not have mentioned the candidate. I can't remember. And they brought up your name. They don't know that I know you, but they know you. And so does everyone else in this category. And they said there's a bounty. It came up, and there's a bounty been issued on your head a few years after your turnover, your arrangement to have this terrorist killed. And the bounty is not by the group who turned the terrorist over to me. It is a subsidiary group who left the main group because they didn't like that cooperation. And that's the group, along with Al-Qaeda. It's called the BIF. It's an acronym. And along with Al-Qaeda, who issued this bounty. I have returned to the Philippines since the bounty. I take certain significant precautions, but the point is, it's recorded, and we don't know what the bounty is. At least I haven't found out. I haven't pursued it, but he didn't know. And this was a new bounty. It's about a 10-minute call where we talk about some other things, and he mentions this, and he says, "You can't come back to the Philippines. Don't come back." And I said, "I'm coming back, and I'll be there." And that's how that ends. He's warning me not to return.
Yes. Do you were you used as a front man by someone else to actually claim the reward?
No, I was used because they had previously done a cooperative work with the State Department, and they were not paid the reward money. So the Rewards for Justice program failed to pay them, even though they were admittedly and both.
So you were used as a frontman.
So I was used. Yeah, I asked, why are you? They approached me when I put the word out. They approached me through two people that were very close to me. A former military of the Philippines. He's a lieutenant colonel. We call him General Ray, but that's his nickname. And a gentleman named Roma. I probably won't say his name. He is. I believe he's CIA. He doesn't say.
So did you have to share the reward with him?
I don't comment on the reward money, but let me just say this. When I was recruited, I submitted to the State Department a reward disbursement memo. And they denied the reward disbursement memo, saying, we only pay the source. You're the source. We will only pay you. So there is record of my generosity to others in the reward disbursement memo pre-receiving or deserving any award.
Okay. And regarding to that whole situation, do you think isn't it like unethical to profit off a deadly operation where 44 commandos died?
Well, let me go to that. No one had to die. I say politely, Lux, you don't know the full story. If you're prepared to hear it, I'll tell you. But let me just say this. When to answer focused on that question, when I came to the Philippines and I reported to the staff of the Senate and the House and the Speaker, and I told them about the offer that I set up for the terrorists to be turned over without a shot fired. So the plan was the terrorist, his name was Marwin, was to be turned over by those controlling his movements. And they were going to be turned over to anyone that I arranged. It could have been me along with the State Department. The State Department chose to reject my, we had a code name for it. I don't want to get into some of these details, but we code named the plan. It was in writing. And it was presented to the State Department, and they admonished me, you will not do this. We're turning this over to the Philippine Domestic Police. We're going to be assisting them, but they're going to do this project. And by the way, they had 3 battles. 3 battles over several years to get this terrorist at the exact point of location that I indicated. And they lost the first battle. They lost the second battle. The third battle, they got him. And then an American took his finger. There were 2 Americans on site. They took his finger and they brought it to the Los Angeles FBI headquarters. And in a few months, they had confirmed it was Marwan. But no one had to die, Lux. That was my complaint. That's what I said. That's why the American State Department has disavowed me somewhat. They've caused me some trouble because when I say cause me some trouble, I can tell you what some of those things are. But the point is, I went to the Philippine government and I said, it didn't have to happen this way. I was the only single source of this particular terrorist location. And I worked consistently with my handlers. And I told them, I can arrange for this terrorist to be turned over because my source controlled his movements. Instead, they did it this way. Terrible. These 44 people were killed.
But how do you feel by profiting off the death of those 44 people?
Well, I don't feel that I did profit off that. I don't think of it like that. Should I? I don't think of it like that. Those people shouldn't have died, and I tried to protect them. And
did any of those people that died, did any of their family members get any of that money?
No.
So they died in the battle and they received zero?
No, they didn't receive zero. They received substantial sums of money by 2 sources. The Philippine government provided money. I can't tell you if any of that money came from, I don't know, not that I can't tell you, I don't know if any of that money came from the American State Department. But
so how much is this substantial amount of money?
I don't know the numbers. And
so how do you know it's substantial?
Well, because it was listed in the news. It's public record, and they're not listing.
If it's public record, how do you not know the number?
I don't know the number. I don't know that the number.
So you know everything about this story, but you don't know public information.
No, I don't know anything about. I know that I met some of these families at a gathering in Manila, Philippines. Their attorney represented them.
As an estimate, how much would you?
I have no clue. If you can,
so you know everything about this story, but you don't know how much the.
Well, I do know. I know 2 things. I know that they had a equivalent of GoFundMe. I don't know what that was. It wasn't GoFundMe probably, but they were raising money. There was an effort, and there was.
Well, a GoFundMe is a public community.
I use that as an example. I
know, but what I mean is, it's a peer-to-peer something along those lines.
And then the Philippine government gave them substantial sums, as it was reported, each one of them.
So the community, the Philippine people and the community at large funded to help the families to receive this money, not actually.
And the Philippine government actually gave them an allocation. We could look it up. I mean, I don't know if it's public, the number, but it's public that they did it, and it had to have been substantial. The words were substantial, but who knows what that is? I mean, who knows? Did they give them 5 million pesos each? 1 million peso? 50 million pesos?
No, but it'd be good to research that. It'd be interesting to know.
It is. I would like to know, and I got to tell you, it's terrible what happened because no one should have died. This was a voluntary turnover. There was an organization controlling this particular terrorist movements. The chairman, Boy Hashimi, of this organization is the man who provided the documentation that was ultimately verified that I passed to the State Department, which was really the CIA, but they all use State Department covers. And this particular person made clear through his intermediaries, 2 of them that I was meeting with regularly, that they could, at a time and place, bring the terrorist to it and turn him over. That was the plan. Then what happened was a plan that was kept from me. The United States, I knew that they were turning the plan over to the domestic Philippine police. I will tell you, at the time, the president denied knowing it. The president of the Philippines' position at the time it became public was that he did not know this plan was in progress. I never saw an update whereby he admitted or was shown to have known ahead of time. But the national police guy did. And I remember he was being questioned about me. this national police chief, and he demanded that the embassy answer the question. And the embassy responded, "We don't comment on ongoing investigations or intelligence matters," or some flippant response with regard to me. So he never got his answer. But it was terrible, terrible what happened. You know, I have a philosophy in my business, which is very legalistic business, that I don't have winners or losers, Lux. Yes. I like to enter a conflict, and unlike an attorney, but I do legal stuff. I'm not a lawyer. I have lawyers behind me on my team, my little company. They advise me, and then the client hires me. So they're not hiring a lawyer, they're hiring me. I'm a consultant. And I often have two parties to contend with. Maybe it's the government and my client. Maybe it's another corporation and my client. My client's often a business. And attorneys would approach this with winners and losers, right? That's the philosophy. Someone's going to win and lose. I try, and I'm pretty successful at not having losers. Working out a win-win. It sounds cavalier, but it works, and I've done it. A win-win situation. So this was a win-lose. I don't like being part of things that are win-lose, and that's why I exposed the American government.
Do you not worry that they could get you in America? The terrorist group?
As I said, if I assure you that they would have a bullet between their head before they knew I was next to them.
How can you be so confident of that?
I'm absolutely confident because I'm a confident man and I'm skilled. And I have precautions.
But some people that are overly confident and overly believe their own bullshit fail.
You're absolutely right, 100%. But let's go to that. So I fail. I'll meet my maker and I'll be in a much better place, won't I? I'm ready to go.
Are you a religious man?
Yes.
Okay.
And I'm very happy with the transitioning to heaven, and I'm ready. But that's not going to happen because I'm going to overwhelm. Look, I'm going to lose a knife fight. There's going to be no knife fights. But I have my precautions that will facilitate the bullet between their head before they know it's coming. And I will do that if I'm sleeping.
I feel it's a bit big-headed to.
Let's go further. Let's go further. I'm sleeping in my house, and they enter the window quietly. Bullet, their head, not mine.
No, but you're presuming that's how it works. I can tell you for a fact because I've been in these situations. That's not how it fucking works.
No, they get you.
I will tell you how they do it. I will tell you how they would do it. Right, if I was them, this is how I would do it.
Yeah. Can I guess? You're coming and going.
Okay.
You're coming and going. They'll get you on your departure or your arrival to a location.
No. Okay. I would knock on your door dressed as the police.
Mm-hmm.
You think I am the police. I enter your home. Once I'm in your home, you think I'm the police.
That's
right?
not going to happen. It's not going to happen.
How? If the police knocked on your door right now and they had a plausible reason to enter your property from the story they've conjured up, then now they're in your property.
Oh,
but
well, let's be clear.
They are not the police.
Well, there are certain things.
They tie you to a chair. They put a bag over your head. They drill holes in your fucking kneecaps and make you fucking talk.
Well, I have nothing to offer. I mean, what would they? I think they want me dead. They don't want.
Yes, but it's for their own gratification to see you squirm.
Very good point. Very good point. I have significant precautions that
maybe they want that $5 million back.
$5 million. Oh, they want the money back. They want their money back. You think that's their money?
I mean, they want a percentage of what you got. Maybe they want some of that money.
Well, that's negotiable. That's all reasonable negotiation.
So if they did that, would you say, okay?
Oh yeah, I'm a bit. We wouldn't need drilling before the nails. We could work that out. But we're talking about a straight out kill. I thought. Okay, so we're talking about their valid complaint that they need a little cash. I'm a reasonable man. Send me an email.
How much do you have left out of the 5
not from
million?
Nigeria.
How much do you have left out of the 5 million?
And I say that kind of jokingly, but I do mean it. And when I make examples, I use exaggerated points to make my point. But yeah, that no one's going to be able to get into. I have some very simple lifestyle issues.
Can I give you some advice? Just a little bit of advice. Yeah. Whatever you do, do not turn off the background filter on your camera.
Oh, interesting. I can't.
No. I'm telling you, do not. I'm giving you some.
It's not on my choice, Lux. It's actually no background.
Okay. But I'm saying that's good. That's good. But what I'm saying is that's good. That's saving your life right now. Yeah. Because I can tell you categorically, I can't even say the word, categorically, that if you remove that filter, or if it was for some reason removed, I could find your location within 60 seconds.
My location is not hidden. I don't hide, Lux. My location is very easily found. I told you I'm prepared for the visitor. And I'm
so if
I don't hide. People, you could go to my Facebook. You find the number my phone number that I've had since 1991. You will find the only email I use since 1993. Actually, I got it in 93. Didn't use it till I had the computer in 94, 95. And reason I say this is because I'm not a man that's hidden. People that hide sometimes are questionable and are hiding for a reason. I don't hide, and I'm highly exposed, and I'm ready.
But some people that expose themselves too much are also questionable.
Well, I don't know about that because I fit that category.
I mean, people that go around saying, "Hey, I'm a bounty hunter. I'm this. I'm that."
Well, I'm not a bounty hunter, by the way. Just so we're clear, I just did this
terrorist hunter.
I did this one deal, and I.
But all on your profiles, every profile you have, you say, "I'm a terrorist hunter," but you're claiming that you're not a terrorist. I mean, you did it once, but it's everywhere.
I call myself terrorist hunter because that's what I was once. If you look at it, it says
it's. But it's all about look at me, look at me.
It's not on my Facebook. That's personal stuff. But on my LinkedIn, as an example, it says former terrorist hunter. I'm a former a lot. On my email catch that I add as formality to some communications, among many things, it says former terrorist hunter, U.S. State Department.
What do you think about Philippine ladies?
You know, people ask me that because of my pattern of dating. My last 4 relationships, 4 years, 8 years, 4 years, 3 years, are Filipino women. And I may have gotten the years wrong. There were one was longer than 3 years. But the point is, all I have to say is, if I lived in France, I would date French women. There's no particular desire or need for any Filipino woman in my life. I didn't seek Filipino woman. I've never done an online date. I'm in the Philippines. I had to go to the Philippines. I was forced to go to the Philippines. I didn't want to be in the Philippines. Then I did that job for 5 years when I was in the Philippines, 3 or 4 months a year for 5 years as an official position. And then I got a life and I got a girlfriend. So there is no particular desire for Filipino women. As I say, if I was in France and I had a condo there, if I had a condo in France, I suppose I'd have a French girlfriend. If I had a condo in England, I'd have an English girlfriend. I suspect you get a girlfriend where you live. So no, I don't pursue any sort of Filipino relationship because of
I've heard this is a general I've heard that Philippine ladies lie. They often lie. They're compulsive liars. Have you witnessed that?
Not in any relationship I've been involved with. Let's speak of Filipinos generally, if we want to get a lot of people really pissed off here. Filipinos in their culture lie. They're liars. Now, it's different than my culture. When you lie, it's a pretty bad thing. In the Philippines, if they lie and get caught, they say they're sorry. Sorry gets them a pass. Where I come from, if you lie and you say sorry, you get punished. I don't care if you're the girlfriend, the wife, the little child in the family, or a business partner. there is some repercussion to your admission of lying. In the Philippines, there isn't. Amongst themselves, when they apologize, they get a pass. That's not how I view it. But you go along, you know, as they say, what's the saying? In Rome, do as the Romans. So we are in Philippines, you do as the Philippines. There's a lot of crazy cultural things going on there. But yes, they lie. The poor Filipinos you want to avoid if you're seeking a relationship. This is my best advice.
So that's about 99% of the population.
Yeah. I would never get involved with a poor Filipino.
So the ladies that you've been involved with have all been wealthy?
Yeah, wealthy families. Yes.
Okay.
There's a reason. I learned that in the first 6. I should talk about the first 6 months in the Philippines. I met a wonderful girl named Tessa within my first couple of 3 weeks of the Philippines. She became my girlfriend and my fiance, and we were together almost, well, 3.5, 4 years, whatever it was. But along the way, in that period of time, the first 6 months, regardless and notwithstanding of the fact I was in a committed relationship, I met a lot of Filipino women by the nature of where I was going, my appearances. It was official. I was going to functions. The Philippine government was bringing women to introduce me to them. The problem with this group, I want to call them the group of women, is they're from poor families and they're desperate. And you won't know if they love you or not, or if it's truthful or not, or if they'll learn to love you. Luckily, a woman can actually learn to love you. So when the scammer comes and tries to scam you, the beauty of womanhood is that they can learn to love a man. A man cannot learn to love a woman. If a man's not attracted to you within 30 seconds, 45 seconds, a minute and a half, he will never pursue you. But a woman has a lot of components they need for a relationship. A man, not so much. I'm speaking of most men, not necessarily myself. I'm a little different. But the point is, these generalities matter. And so these scammers, I call them scammers because they call them beggars, call them needy women. They're out for financial gain. And you want to stay away, at least I want to stay away from that group. There are many men who would say, oh, if that's transactional, to use that word again, that's okay. I'm not a transactional guy. So, yeah, anyway. So, but if I had to give advice to a man seeking a true relationship or marriage in the Philippines, it would be, it's very easy to find the top 4.5%. That's the official number put out by the Philippine government as the rich of the Philippines. The 4.5% is as rich as the American 1%. They are massively rich. We're not just talking wealthy, massive wealth. And the beauty of having massive wealth in the Philippines is there's nothing you can spend it on because of the lifestyle issues there. So you don't need much to have luxury. You can meet these women in parties, in events, in malls, not in bars, in malls. There are the A-class malls. It's a class system. You go where the rich go. The poor don't go there. Okay. Just meet some family with a family, because Filipinos don't move around alone like an American woman might in the mall or in places or with a girlfriend. They travel in groups, and the wealthy ones have yayas, meaning sometimes 20-something girls, 30-something girls will be accompanied by an employee. Maybe she's uniformed or not. And that's the group you look out for. They're very easy to spot. You can't spot a wealthy person in American mall. You can't spot them. They all look alike. But in the Philippines, understand the culture is different. You can clearly spot the wealthy in a New York minute, just as they pass you.
Yes, it's the same in Thailand.
And the beauty of the culture is you can stop anyone in the Philippines and speak with them. When I say stop, you're in a restaurant, you're at a fine party, you're at an event. There are events, corporate events. Philippines love corporate events. You know, all the designers that put on these events. Not so much here, maybe New York City, but not in LA. And if you go to these events, you'll meet the upper class, and you're not going to meet the middle class. That kind of doesn't really exist, you know. That's how I did it.
Do you think age matters in a relationship?
If one side believes it does, it absolutely matters. But if both sides don't, then it doesn't. And it has to be mutual, you know. I say, look, my focus is common interests. You find someone who's like you, and the relationship will last. That's why I've had successful, long-lasting relationships. I haven't had a contentious relationship since college. During college and pre-college, I had contentious relationships. I don't want to over-exaggerate it because they weren't very contentious, but they were very different than when I left college and began a 14-year relationship with a girl named Belinda. In 1990, I met her, and we were together 14 years. But pre-college, and during college, I picked opposites. Opposites are fun. Opposites were attractive. Opposites were, when I say attractive, not focused on the physical. So I'm talking about the package, but a package of the woman, the values, the interests, the hobbies. I focused on opposites, and opposites were so fascinating to me.
Did you ever have any issues when you don't want to have sex, but the lady does?
That was pre-1990, and in college.
But you've had relationships since then, right?
Oh yeah, but in college, I had full sex with every girlfriend that I recall, except
but since then you haven't. So
no,
in the relationship since then, has there been any issues where she wants to do it and you don't?
We probably wouldn't have made it past the. Let me be clearer. We would definitely not have made it past the first 30 minutes of the meeting.
Oh, sorry, I missed a super chat. There was a super chat here. I do apologize, McLobster. Thank you for reminding me. I got too involved in different subjects. McLobster, $2. Marcus, is it true that Steven Seagal was CIA?
I have no idea. I'm sure there are a lot of people. There are a lot of what's called sources. You have to understand there's a difference between a CIA source and a CIA agent. A CIA or an FBI source is somebody that's just as important and running a project, running a case, but they're not necessarily an employee. So I suspect that doesn't mean they're not paid.
Guys, I'm going to wrap this up in a minute. We've actually gone way over time. I apologize to you, Marcus. It was just very interesting talking to you, and I hope I haven't took too much of your time.
No, we got a little, little back and forth.
Yeah, that's what I like. I wanted to do that. I wanted to get a bit, a little bit edgy sometimes.
Edgy was okay. You were challenging me very significantly on this horrible situation about the fallen 44, which kind of triggers my head, but it's out of my control. And I did set a plan forward for that not to happen, although who would have known that would have happened? But I told them, I told the Philippine government, no one had to die. It was the first thing I said to the speaker, the first thing I said to being debriefed by the former speaker's foreign policy aide, Edwin, whatever his name was, that they sent to me we want to talk to you before you come in. Okay, it was a little debriefing. I said that. I said, no one had to die. The American government did this all wrong. And the whole scandal in the Philippines was why are we the errand boys of the American government? I don't blame them. Why? Why did I know why I asked the question because it was told to me very early on, this would not be an American op. We were turning it over to the Philippines. I didn't know at the time it would be the domestic police, not the military, whatever. But I knew it was being turned over, and it had been. And it never made any sense to me. But I was told why they did that by the State Department, why they do it in certain countries.
If you could do it all over again, what would you do different? Is there anything you'd do? Would you do it again or not?
Oh, I do it in a minute. In fact, I almost did. That's another story, but almost did. There was another terrorist.
So are you actively searching for others?
No. Right after that operation, I was approached again. There was another terrorist, but that terrorist no longer is in the Philippines. But at the time I was approached, he was. So the operation was, I wasn't a source, and all I did was begin the process, and then it was transferred. You know, somebody else took it.
If you could be on the ground to get him, would you do that?
Interesting you say that. The operation that I formatted through a third party, meaning there was another group like BlackRock. Is it BlackRock? But anyway, there was another group I approached because I had a client connection.
BlackRock is the financial.
Yeah, sorry, it's the financial one. There's a very famous group of military commandos that are often retained by governments, very well known. Forgive me for forgetting the name of it. And it's private, and it's contracted. The CIA contracts with them, many governments, mostly other governments who don't have American capabilities. Forgive me for forgetting this very well-known paramilitary group. But nonetheless, there was a much smaller group that was connected to a client of mine. And they came to me and said, we can put together an entire abduction package. But I said, we don't need to abduct him. He's going to be turned over. And they did. And that's what I then...
I think you're referring to Blackwater.
Thank you. I then put that in writing. I have it. And I turned it over to the State Department, and I was admonished because it involved me being on site for the turnover. And I was going to videotape all of it. Of course, that was not in the proposal that was written. Had they known about that, they probably would have been more upset. But I presented the proposal whereby I was going in. We had a budget. I had a budget. I had an investor. It required 2 planes, a helicopter, a lot of equipment. I didn't even know what it was. And we were going to go in and get them because they would have turned them over, a specific group. It was quashed. So, yes, I did several things that could have not ended with 44 Filipinos dying to kill this one man.
Okay.
And anybody that knows the details of this knows that that was all presented to the Philippine government when it was exposed, when it became public.
So going forward, what's your agenda going forward? Like what do you want to do in the next 5 years?
Actually,
what are you building?
I would like to, it's kind of personal, but some of my friends know this. I'd like to close my business. I'm doing consulting. I'd like to stop. I'd like to spend more time doing nothing. And my plan is to shut my business on January 1. And I'm not taking any more clients anyway, but I'm trying to wrap up the existing clients.
What kind of clients take on your services?
I don't get a lot of clients because I don't do advertising and I don't do volume. Not because I can't, because I just don't. I get 6 to 12 calls a year from companies or businesses that know me, know someone that knows me, or know someone that knows someone that knows me, 1 to 3 removed. And I help them get out of trouble with some government agency. Sometimes it's a dispute between an employee or employer. Sometimes it's a dispute between 2 companies, but by and large, it's a government agency who's come after you for something. Now,
and how can you do that?
I do it creatively because I'm doing something that normally a law office would do.
That's what I was thinking. Couldn't they just use a lawyer?
Yeah, but not like I can do it. I use a team.
Is it because you have connections in the government?
You know, people keep saying my connections. My partner and I have this constant debate. It's all about connections, Marcus. It's because you know people. No, it is not. I don't get favors. I wouldn't ask.
So there's no under the table little.
I know. Never. This is not the Philippines. I'm doing it in America. I've done very little work.
Well, there is corruption in America.
Yes,
there is under the table payments. There's all of that.
Well, look, I've been in government a long time. I've never experienced it at all. But I wouldn't be part of that. What it is, though, is I have connections. Yes, and I use them for attention. I get attention. I'll get a call back. But it's funny.
It's funny you say you've never seen payments when you received a $5 million payment.
No, I'm talking about. Look, I've run the largest agency in California for 8 years. I was a political appointee, independent constitutional officer. A constitutional officer, there's only 14 in California. 1 was the governor, 1 was me, and a few others. Some are appointed, some are elected. It's the jobs that are listed in the state constitution. There's only 14 of them, to my recollection of that counts correct. I was one of them. Now, I say that only to show that that was a pretty significant job. All right. In that job, and I spent 1/3 of my job, 1/3 with, and I had a boss, he was the elected. The 1/3 of that job was helping people unwind what my very agency put them into, what my government, what my California government did to them, victimized them. So I spent my time getting people out of trouble with the agency for which I worked and other agencies in California when word got out. I didn't have to do that as 1/3 of my job. I could have just spent the entire time running the agency. That was my duty, but I chose to do what I enjoyed and what mattered, helping people. I would get a letter. I would get a phone call. Let me tell you what I did do. It was legal. They took me to lunch every day. I made them take me to lunch. I would tell my assistant, book me with these people writing and needing help. So they would take me out to lunch. That was allowed under California law, under, I believe it was $80 a lunch. As long as it was under, I had to disclose it and and they couldn't exceed whatever amount it was. And we did it. We did this paperwork. You do that. But the point is, they would meet and I would help them or not, try to help them or not. The reason I mentioned that is all my life I've tried to help people, and my job is now doing exactly the same thing, except I don't get a salary. I get paid an advance flat fee to try and help you. And I get another fee if in fact I'm successful. And I do legal work with the help of I have an attorney behind me. I have a couple of them. I have a CPA, 2 of them, and I have a lobbyist. But here's the thing. I'm not credentialed. I use their bio. I use their credentials. You can't hire them. They're on my website. You'll know who they are. You meet them. But I do all the work, with one component that I don't: accounting. My CPA skill set I have to use. I don't need the attorney. I use his credentials. I use his name. I do the work. Some exceptions to that, sure. If there's litigation in court, we have to let the attorney do that. But the beauty of what I do is we don't go to court. I get people out of FBI investigations. I've gotten arraignments canceled in courtrooms after the indictment when I met with the U.S. attorney and negotiated out of it. He's innocent. Here's why. Let's have 3 meetings and talk before the trial. No attorney does that. Attorneys tell their clients to shut up. The fact is, if you're innocent, you talk. If you're guilty, technically, you talk. And if you're not guilty, if you are guilty, you stay silent. I don't represent guilty people. I've done it one time that I recall. I had to learn he was guilty. But the point is, we go in and we unbeat the egg, and we do it through a political component. The only political component is communication. So I'll meet with, when normally an attorney would never. A good example, I had a case that was set for an arraignment when I got it. She was going to be going to jail for Medi-Cal fraud, Medicare or Medi-Cal, whatever it was. She was represented by an attorney. She had heard about me. She came to me. I met her alone. I said, I don't need my team. I don't need my lawyer or my CPA or my lobbyist. I need me, and you need me. Let's get your attorney. Don't fire him. Just ask him to stand down. She did. I contacted her attorney. He was not happy to hear from a non-attorney. And I said, turn over her file, please. He did, reluctantly, but had to. I went through the file and I saw the first document on the page was her arraignment. He said he would be responding to it when it came up. They're going to postpone it. He had investigations pending, whatever. I got on that case and I called the Attorney General himself. Yes. I got the Chief Deputy Attorney General, who, by the way, later became the Chief of Staff of the Governor and then appointed to judge. I didn't know this guy, but I got through because I have a reputation. I don't know if it was my reputation. I got through. And this nice Mr. Humes was his name, James Humes. He's a judge now, as I understand. Mr. Humes was the Deputy Attorney General of California, second highest ranking law enforcement official. And I said, Mr. Humes, I used to work down the Constitutional Alley, a different job, same pay grade. You don't know me. I'd like to meet with you. He said, you know, Marcus, I'm fast forwarding. I can't meet to discuss any client pending criminal act. You know that. I'm an attorney general. You can meet with your senator, but you can't meet with me for that. I said, well, I'm coming to meet with you on a public policy issue, not a client. Although I'm retained by a client, we won't talk about it. We go to lunch at 2nd Street Bar and Grill. And I said, sir, here's the statute that you're prosecuting my client on. You have an arraignment pending. She's a God-fearing Christian who committed a technical violation because her employee did it. And the law says you don't have to have intent. The law says that you can prosecute her because she should have known. Fair enough, but she didn't. I'm making this speech and he interrupts me and says, Marcus, we don't have. Now, remember, I'm there on a public policy issue. I'm only talking about the law and prosecuting people without intent when the law lets you. And he says to me, Marcus, we don't have budget. We don't have the staff to go after anyone without intent. We have organized crime robbing California of Medi-Cal fraud and Medicare fraud that we have to assist the feds on. We don't do that. We don't prosecute without intent, even though we can. We have too many people that we can go after. We have organized crime. Clearly, we're not going to go after people that you're mentioning. And I said, sir, I have an arraignment on a person that I promised you I wouldn't mention. And he said, what's your client's name? But see, I knew exactly how this would play out. I'd be there on a public policy point. He'd be outraged. He'd want to know who this client of mine is. I told him. Within days, an email went out to all investigators, because there was an investigator on this prosecution and an attorney, and it said, a reaffirmation of the policy of the Attorney General and the previous Attorney General. We don't, under the Medi-Cal law, prosecute anyone without intent. Cancel all prosecutions. They did. I don't know who else was involved. That arraignment was canceled. My client was restored, and theoretically, she could have had her license pulled for that violation. She could have had to pay some fines. It was sent back to the agency that controlled it in California. Her license was reinstated. After a few discussions with the agency, they didn't fine her, which they could have done for a technical violation. They restored her, and the only mistake I made was she got $200,000 released in Medi-Cal, and I forgot to include a percentage on that contract for a win bonus. But I got $80,000 up front to try and help her. I got $20,000 at the back end as success if I was successful. And then I didn't get a bonus for all that money she sent, but she sent me 2 other clients in other fields. So there's an example of how you, as a non-attorney, by the way, that attorney who had no respect for me at all, her attorney, you can't do this. He tried to talk her out of it. He told her I was a scam. I mean, he said everything nasty. He ultimately apologized to me and referred me a client. And to show what an idiot he was, he refers the client to me by fax while I'm out of the country. I get back 3 months later, there's a fax on my fax machine with a referral. I thought, what the hell? It was a property tax matter. They needed help with the property assessor. So these attorneys, you know, they only do things one way, and that is in controversy, winners and losers, and they react to the government, I go in and I have meetings and I negotiate and work something out, not compromise, not plea bargain, get them out of it because they're innocent.
All right, I'm going to wrap this puppy up.
I'm sorry that was terribly boring, probably.
That's okay. No worries. 2-hour show. I hope everyone enjoyed it. We had quite a few super chats.
Hey, there is one thing. Can I say one thing? Just one last comment?
Yes.
There's a lovely comment from Grim Lavermancer. Boy, that's a hard name to pronounce. And he has a comment here that's interesting. This is very limited view of the Philippine culture and Philippine women. You and I both were talking about liars and so on. You hang out where only foreigners, usually Caucasians and expats, hang out. Naturally, you get those kind of women. We don't. I don't. But yes, you do. And I need to tell you, you know, I've been to Boracay 54 times. And the reason I go to Boracay Island Resort is because it's for rich Filipinos, Chinese.
Boracay.
And yeah, Boracay. And it's for Filipinos and Chinese. Very few foreigners, Western foreigners go there. There's a lot of Westerners who own the businesses there. But when I went to Cebu, all I saw was a bunch of Australians, Americans, Russians. I'll never go back. I went to Palawan, a beautiful place in the Philippines. I'll never go back because I don't want to hang where there are American expats or American people. I avoid all locations, with one exception. I avoid all locations that Americans or non-Filipinos go to. So That's not true, Grim. You're correct. When you go there, you get all sorts of bad women. That's one of the other reasons I didn't go back. You go to Palawan, and with all the bad women and all the smoking foreigners, you know, you got to get out of there and never go back. That was my feeling.
Fair enough. All right. Any other final comments?
No, but I enjoyed this very much. It was an extended stay. I wish you would show your face, but that's your personal prerogative. And I would love to chat with you privately at any time. Thank you very much for the opportunity to speak with you and answer questions.
Thank you. I appreciate you talking to me, and I appreciate your time.
We're good.
I thank you, everyone in the chat. Thank you for the super chats: Marcus Mandel, McLobster, Pickled Pickle, Mental Jog, Patrick B, Truth Everlasting, McLobster, and McLobster.
There are a lot of good questions on here. We should have gone through them. There's some good ones. Thank you so much.
Yeah, we can get into some more heavy hitting questions if you feel comfortable next week, if you feel like it.
Sure.
All right, sounds good. If there's any really interesting questions that you found, write them down, and then maybe we can get into it.
Yeah, I generally copy and paste the good ones, and I send them to a buddy who likes to read them. I don't. This is the first time I've actually really looked at questions while we were online. But
is there any in particular? Is there one in particular you want to bring up?
One man wants to know if I've ever thought of becoming a priest, and I said, well, you know, Jesus is Jewish, but I'm not sure they're ready for Jewish priests. But you know, it's a thought.
I have a question.
Yeah, sure.
It's kind of out there, wacky kind of question.
I like wacky.
I'll tell you my reasoning probably later. Are you bisexual at all? No. Okay.
No. In fact, I had one experience I alluded to earlier where I said I had a casual opportunity once that was inadvertently set up and by me, and I then rejected it. I realized I didn't want to be intimate with a woman if I didn't have a committed relationship or some level of pre-committed relationship activity. You get me, I think. Okay. But in this encounter, there was another gentleman involved, my best friend, Jeremy Page, who's now making a fortune selling ice cream, and he's living the dream in Hawaii. But anyway, Jeremy, probably shouldn't have said his last name. He is married. This is pre-marriage. So we were very young, 18, 19, 20. I don't remember. We met this girl as we're driving down the street. Her name was Melody. And we met people like people meet each other in the 80s. Was this the 80s? This could have been the 90s. No, it was the 80s, late 80s. Yeah, late 80s. And we met her driving down the street. I'm in a fancy car, so it catches attention. Melody was not in such a fancy car. And we got her attention. We pulled into a parking lot. That's what we guys did. At least where I'm from in Los Angeles, we're all in our cars. That's how you meet people in LA. You did then, you might still do it. And we pulled over and realized we're at a coffee shop, near a coffee shop called Page's in Encino, California, Los Angeles suburb. And we said, well, why don't we, it was about 11 o'clock at night. It was the days when things were open all night in Los Angeles, not so much anymore. And we're starting to go into the coffee shop when I said to her and Jeremy, do we really want to go into this place? We all had dinner. She told me earlier. Jeremy and I were just leaving dinner, a dinner restaurant. She said no. So we said, well, look, let's go to my house and turn on the jacuzzi. So we drive, 30 minutes away to my house. My parents lived there. We brought this girl and Jeremy and myself, and we go into my house and we go into the jacuzzi. And she of course, Jeremy and I noticed she doesn't have a bathing suit. We do, of course, being modest 20-somethings. And we're in the jacuzzi. She's naked. We're of course gentlemanly and not. And this girl wants sexual interaction, and she wants it with both of us. This is a true story. And so both of us decide this is the direction we're heading, right? I'm telling this story, I think, for the first time ever, except when Jeremy and I laugh about it occasionally. So we retire from the jacuzzi. We have some snacks. We chat. We get to know each other a bit. And we go up to my bedroom, which was very private. And there's Jeremy and I and this girl. And I thought to myself immediately, I said, this isn't comfortable. Now, the activity was supposed to take place because it was discussed, because we're talkers, both Jeremy, I, and me, and luckily Merrily, the girl was, Melody Blankstein, whatever her name was. She said she wanted to have sex with both of us together at the same time. So we tacitly agreed. We go up to the bedroom, and I just said, this is not for me. I'm out. And I got up and left Jeremy and the girl in my bed. I went downstairs in the den, watched some TV. 30 minutes, Jeremy comes strolling down, and he says, she wants to see you. And I said, well, yeah, I'm still not comfortable with this. But I went up, we talked. At some point, we leave. She and I have no physical interaction, nothing. And we leave. I'm sorry, Jeremy and I took Jeremy home. She went home in her own car. And on the ride back with Jeremy, he admitted he had no physical encounter with her. I said, well, I never had a physical encounter with her. And we certainly didn't do it together. But you see, we had the option. We set it up ourselves, and we agreed to both interactions intimately with this woman alone or together or with him. And all of it was rejected by him and I. Now, he later in life has told me he regrets not experiencing it with her, not me or him in the room. So I didn't regret any component of avoiding both options. You can fill in the blanks of those options. And so no, I have a gay bone in my body. And the reason I know that is this experience proved it to me. And it also proved to me, and I never again allowed myself to be in a moment with a woman that I wasn't very interested in having a long-term relationship with.
So if you've not had sex, do you believe in other forms of affection?
Yes. Well, maybe that wasn't clear. My last set of girlfriends, go back as far as you'd like to that point you wish, we're very intimate. Excuse me, I'm getting hiccups for some reason. We're not conducting the act of sexual intercourse.
Oh, so what about foreplay?
Let's put it this way. Archie and I were talking about this the other day. You know the bases? There used to be bases, first base, base, third.
Yes.
So we hit the bases. But you have to find a match, because if you start dating a woman who's highly sexual, and I did date a woman like that.
So why would you not want to? You go through all those bases. Why not continue? Why stop?
Well, because I think, there's certain things you say. There's a whole bunch of reasons I can come up with that make sense to my head. One is, I told you, some are virgins. You don't want to de-virginize a woman carelessly.
Yeah, but you can do it. You can do it carefully.
You can do it carefully. Let's just put it this way. These are good Catholic women, and they want to be de-virginized in marriage for the plan of having a baby. And that's fine with me. That's my value. So you have to find matching value. If I didn't have a matching value, I wouldn't have a long-term. I'd be giving you examples of relationships that didn't work out after 3 months because we're not sexual matches. I can't give you those examples. There's always an example. There was one girl I met years ago while in college, first year of college. Her name was Elisa. She was highly sexual. She was the sister of my best friend, who's still my friend to this day. I have lunch with him and his brother on Sundays. And Elisa was highly sexual. We were not a match. This was pre-college when I was looking for opposites. She was an opposite. She was very beautiful, but Elisa was not a match.
Can I go back to where you say, okay, she's a Catholic and no sex before marriage. So how long were you dating these girls that were Catholics and no sex before marriage.
Oh, I guess you don't know the story. So when I went in 2023, I became single from a 14-year relationship. I was engaged to Belinda for 14 years. She broke with me because we didn't marry. She had an engagement.
Okay, so why didn't you marry him in 14 years?
I wasn't ready for marriage. Okay.
So why engage to a lady if you're not going to marry her?
I loved being with this woman.
So you strung her along for 14 years.
And you know what? Let me tell you, I ruined 14 years of her life, or at least some portion of that. I'm with you. But it didn't dawn on me. We had a wonderful relationship until the final year, and she broke with me, and it was
she's fed up of waiting. She realized that
there's no right thing here.
I bet she feels like, fuck, you just wasted my life. I could have been with another guy.
I gave her an engagement ring. She bought a wedding dress.
So you did all those motions, and then you didn't do it.
I did them all.
That's disgusting.
It is disgusting. Absolutely. I mean, notwithstanding 13,
you do realize the value of a lady is in her youth.
Yes.
She is now worthless. She is now on the heap.
It took her 4 years from that day, 4 or 5 years. I'm trying to remember because I know her story a little bit. And she got remarried.
Remarried? She never got
married. She got married. Terribly. You know, look, we've talked.
No sex for 14 years.
We stayed. Well, no formal intercourse. She was a good Catholic. She lived with me. She lived with me, went home.
So she didn't have sex for 14. She was a virgin after 14 years.
Yes, she was a virgin after 14 years. And I met her when she was 19 or 20. We were together 14 years. We broke up in 2003. And that's the year I was assigned to go to the Philippines. When I went, I'm taking you through this really fast because your question was how long, who are they? So I'll try to do it faster. I met a woman in the Philippines. After a couple of weeks, I was introduced. Her name was Tessa. We were together about 3.5 years. She wouldn't move to America.
So how old was she when you broke up? 26, did you say?
Oh, you mean Belinda?
Whichever one was 14 years of.
Belinda had to be was approaching 30. Maybe she was 30. Let's do the math. 30, 31, something like that.
So is it approaching 30 or over 30?
Well, I met her when she graduated college. Well, she was approaching 30, I guess. So the next one was Tessa. I met Tessa.
So you met her when she was 15?
No, I met Belinda when she was 18 or 19, I think.
So how's that 14 years?
We were together 14 years.
So how can you be under 30?
Let's do the years instead of the. I met her in 1990. And we broke up in 2003. How many years is that? We don't have my partner CPA handy, but somebody could do that math. 1990. I met her at Nordstrom's in Los Angeles. And she became a top Nordstrom executive, 6-figure executive, moved to Washington State, where the corporate headquarters is. And she is living a wonderful life there. We stayed in touch until she left California, which was a few years ago. And then a few years after that, she married. I went to the Philippines and I met a lovely lady I was with for 3.5 years. I'll do the real short version. I then met and was involved with another woman for 4 years. I was met and involved with another woman 8 years. I got those reversed.
So you find all of these women, you promise that you're going to get married.
No. The story is different. I just want to take you through the years. The next one was 4 years, and then the next one was 3 years. You do the math. 1993 to 2022. Okay, 2003 to 2022.
You keep changing.
Well, I'm getting the years wrong. It was when I got to the Philippines, 2003 to 2022. Okay. All of those relationships occurred in that period, back to back. I was probably single less than a month. I'm making that. I don't know the exact, but very short period of time between the relationships. I broke with each one of them for the same reason. My side of the reason was the same. Theirs was they had different reasons for the reason I broke, which was they wouldn't live in America full time. They would marry me. So on the day I broke with each of them, they all wanted to marry me. I wanted to marry them. We had no issues other than they will not live in America. I can take you through each reason. The first one actually came here. She didn't like America. She had a visa. She went back. We ended the relationship. We didn't have a problem in the relationship. We are still in touch. We talk regularly. She's single. The second one was 8 years. She's married now. We're in touch more than any other relationship because she handles my affairs in the Philippines. I say affairs, my activity. She's married. Her name's Love. She got married last year, I think, year before. We were together 8 years. Love never left the Philippines because when she graduated college, she developed a career, a consulting career that paid significant money in the Philippines, 100,000 or 200,000 pesos a month. She could never do that career in America. I supported her career. I stood there by her side, but she would marry me, but she would not live in America. After 8 years, I said, I can't have a part-time wife anymore. I only live in the Philippines 4 months a year. I broke with her. We stay in absolute regular weekly contact to this day. There's reasons for that. She's married. The next girlfriend I met, she was in school, and her plan was to go to dental school in America when she graduated. She graduated in March of one of these years, and I came with the visa documents, and I said, now, Miss Winkle, let's come to America. And she said, Math, I'm afraid to study in America. I can study here. My father will pay for it. Whatever the story was, we broke up a few days later. Marry me here. Wait for me to finish college. Whatever. Both options were put on my table. I said no. I left. The next relationship was Shane. We were together a couple of years. She's the only one that will not speak with me. Almost 3 years we were together. She would not come to America. She was integrated with her mother. Her mother was sick. Now, am I going to wait for her mother to die? No, we broke. She won't speak with me. So she wanted to marry me. We were engaged. She wants me to live there or not, but
What about April? What about April?
April is not, there's no April. So wait.
There is an April.
An April person? An April girl? No. What do you mean?
Yeah, go.
There's a friend of mine named, but well, hold on a second. Let's back up. Let me finish this last component. So a couple of years go by. I don't return for the first time ever. I don't return to the Philippines. Why is that? Because I've never been to the Philippines ever without having an existing relationship. Never, except the first visit, which I developed oddly a relationship in weeks. So I decided there was no reason to ever return to the Philippines. Despite 2 condos there, I don't return. I don't return because I have no relationship, so I didn't go back. Now, that was 2022. You look, the pandemic made that convenient because of, there was pandemic issues too. But that's fine. I have an ongoing ticket that I keep moving that never expires. I usually go to the Philippines from March to June, or March to April, whatever it is, March, April, May, January, February, March, April, May. I go in the summer. I pick 3 months. I never returned. While I'm in America last year, I get a text message from Winkle. Now, who's Winkle? Remember the order. Winkle was one girlfriend previous, more than 3.5 years ago at this point in this text message. And I haven't heard from her since. We didn't stay in touch. I stayed in touch with her family, her father, but not much of Winkle. She said, Math, I'm coming to America tomorrow. I have a job. This is the one that wouldn't come to America to study. Wanted me to marry her there or wait for her to finish studies. She's now in America the next day in a job. To make that long story short, we meet immediately. It's a funny story. She says she'll be here. Can you meet for dinner? And of course, by the time I woke up, the phone was ringing off the hook because she meant lunch. She had her time changed, screwed up. And we kept meeting while she was here. And I told her how terrible Los Angeles is. And we decided to rebuild. She says, I'm ready for marriage. I could read you all the texts and love story and the notes. And we kept meeting. And I said, well, look, I want to go to Florida. Florida is a better place. California is terrible. Los Angeles is the worst city I've ever experienced. And the more I stay here, it's the worst ever. She transfers to Florida. That's where she is right now as we speak. unless she's back quickly back and forth in the Philippines, which could be at this date. I'm looking at the date. But she works in Florida. And my plan, you asked me a few minutes ago, what's your plan? My plan is to shut this business that I'm in, unwind these clients, already shut, unwind the clients, and by next year, sometime after January, to make a significant move to Florida. And we'll see if we can rekindle this relationship that she claims is rekindlable, because we were in love and we did both want to marry. And I've been with her regularly and recently, but we didn't put a label on it because she let me down once. I didn't let her down. So we'll see. I'm open-minded. That's my story. You said somebody about an April. Who's April?
I don't know. All right. Okay. So should we wrap it up?
Sure.
All right. Thank you, everyone, and we'll see you next week.
All right.
All right. Thank you, everyone.
Mr. Lux, thank you. It's really been fun.
Thank you. Thank you.
Have a good week.
Thank you. Likewise. Take care.